Hi, this is Lee with learningwithlee.com. We're going to calculate finally today, hopefully. Alright, so we have, this is what we did last time. When I click on number, and number is this, something with the class number, then it's going to do this function. It means do this thing. On click. When something with the class number is clicked, this is what I want you to do. And what you want to do is inside this bracket right there. There, it's closed. That little line underneath shows you where it's closed. So we're going to take, in this, we're going to put HTML. Okay. Number pressed is whatever is in the HTML of this. And then we're going to put on the screen, attach it on the number pressed. Okay, so screen is ID screen. Alright, now those numbers weren't saved. And I want to be able to say add number 1 plus number 2. So I needed to save those things as number 1 and number 2. So this is how I solved that problem. There's lots of different ways you could solve that problem. This is how I solved it. I gave number 1 the value and number 2 the value of 11. That's a number that it's not going to be pressed, right? No one's pressing 11. You could use something called Boolean, which I never ever use, and this would be false. Like number 1 is false. There is no number 1 there. And then once you save a number there, then you would change number 1 to true because now there is a number there. I never use that, so you can look that on W3 schools and learn about Boolean is what it's called, B-O-O-L-E-A-N, and it's just true and false. So I could say like if number 1, then this, but I never use that. I don't. My brain doesn't like thinking that way. I do better with numbers. So if number 1 equals 11, that means no number has been put there yet. So let's go ahead and assign number 1 to whatever number was pressed. Now remember, number pressed is our this, whatever was in the HTML of this, what was clicked, was called number pressed, and now number 1 is going to be number pressed. So this is an if statement, if, and then we put it in parentheses, and to say if something's equal, we write 2 equal signs. Why? Or 3. 3 is like even more sure that they're the same. Which is typically you probably just want to use 3. Because 1 equal sign assigns it. We don't want to assign 11 to number 1. We want to check if it's number 1. Are these equal? This is asking a question. This is a comparison. This is assigning. This is assigning number pressed to number 1. The number 1 variable now equals number pressed. So we write if parentheses, it's closed right there, and then if that's true, it's going to do what's inside the bracket. So if number 1 equals 11, then no new number has been assigned to it, so we're going to assign the number pressed to number 1. Else, if that's not true, we can say else, write no way on the screen. Have something else happen. So if this is not true, else do this. If this, else do this. But I don't necessarily want to assign the number pressed to number 2 because maybe there's already something there. Okay. And you're like, they're only typing in 2 numbers. Well, maybe they're going to type a bunch of numbers. Who knows what they're going to do, right? So else if number 2 equals 11, so nothing's been assigned there, then number pressed is going to be assigned to number 2. Now this doesn't happen if this has already happened. So if number 1 equals 11, this happens. If number 1 does not equal 11, it skips this and goes to this. And this is an if too. So if, and if it's not true, it's just going to come to the end and get out. It's not going to do anything. Okay, so if number 1 parentheses number 1 comparison equals number 11, then no number's been there yet, so we're going to put number pressed in number 1. So it did that, so it's going to leave the function here, it's going to get out. But if it's not equal to number 1, if it does equal 11, no, if it doesn't equal 11, then it's going to do this else instead. But it's not just something we want to do automatically, we want to check. So I say else if, we start a new if statement. If number 2 is equal to number 11, if number 2 is 11, then nothing's been assigned there yet. So we're going to do what's inside the brackets, and we're going to assign number pressed to number 2. If number 2 does not equal 11, then we're just going to get out. There's already a number there, so we don't need to do anything. Okay, now this is solving my first problem that I had. It's going to create new problems, and maybe you'll figure out what problems it's creating, but for now it's going to help us move forward. So if you allow me just to move on, this we already had here about assigning operations. But now on equal, we wanted to do something. So when we press equal, we don't want it just to write an equal sign. We want it to do this. And here's a whole bunch of if statements. This is what you're practicing today. If op, our variable for operation, equals, there's that comparison, plus, then the answer equals num1 plus num2. If that operation equals minus, then answer equals num1 minus num2. And so on, multiplication and division. Here's the multiplication sign there. The rest of them are the same, but don't use an X there. Use the asterisk for multiplication. And that's the division sign. Okay, so answer equals num1, num2, and then we append to the screen the answer. And then I'm setting this back because we want to reset our numbers ready to take new numbers in. So I'm going to put them back to 11. Now this crazy looking thing up here is just because the HTML we're taking in is called a string. It's like the same as if you wrote a word in there. It's not recognizing it as a number. So we're taking those, it's called a string, like this is a string inside quotes, the writing on the page. And this is turning it into an integer, turning it into a number. Okay, then it's going to let us add them together. And you can skip this and just see what happens. Okay, say num1 plus num2 without using this thing, without turning it into a number, just something called concat. It concats the strings. Like if this was 1 plus 2 and you didn't use this parse int thing, it would just, you know, put them together, 1, 2. It would write num1 plus num2 would just be like, oh, okay, 1 and 2, put them together. But we want the computer to think of them as numbers, not, you know, the same as like a word on the page, and actually add them together. So that's what this code is here, parse int, parentheses around the variable there. So the 1 equals sign because we're assigning this to that. So new num1 is going to be this actual number. Okay, so let's take a little look and then you can try it yourself. So 1 plus 2 equals, yay. And then we can clear it, right? So maybe you want, you know, we can work more on how it looks and how it acts as we do more. So there you go. It's doing something now. And we will keep working on it and keep solving problems, right, until we get it just the way we want it. All right, have fun playing with your if statements. I gave you a whole lot to work with.